Welcome on in to KSL Sports Front Page here, brought to you by University Federal Credit Union. Kind of an interesting setup, Mitch, as it looks like you're in a car, meaning you just touched down in Annapolis, Maryland, getting ready to cover that BYU Navy game from Maryland, and the jealousy of myself and BYU fans alike. One of the few people in the stadium. Glad you made it there safely, Mitch.
Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, the rental car setup kind of took a little bit longer than expected, so that's why you're seeing the KSL Sports Front Page set up a little bit later than usual. We usually do this at 4:00 Mountain Time, but coming up a little bit later, obviously tonight. And I gotta say too, Matt, the Eastern Time Zone throws me for a loop. It's already 8 out here. I'm like, whoa, we are lucky to be in the Mountain Time Zone where you watch games, sporting events at a decent hour. People don't know they do this, man. It's 8:13, and it's like it's only the first or second quarter of the NBA playoff games. It's nuts. But anyway, I'm glad to be out here. I'm excited. We're going to get the coverage fired up with this. And then KSL Sports Instagram, KSL Sports Twitter, Periscope, you name it, YouTube, KSLSports.com. We're going to have you covered for this huge game, BYU and Navy, coming up Monday night. And we'll have our radio show tomorrow, and then on Monday, man, it's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, we're gonna have everything covered for you BYU fans. If you don't follow already, you got to. And then game day, of course, you'll be there. You'll be tweeting. You'll be putting out articles as well. We'll have a special edition Cougar Sports Saturday podcast after the game, kind of breaking it down. So look, we're biased, obviously, but I think that's going to be great. Must-listen podcast for BYU fans, just instant reaction on the game, especially with your perspective being at the stadium. Definitely worth following all those accounts, subscribing, going to be great. And speaking of BYU, Mitch, I guess we'll start here. Kind of a surprising announcement today where BYU, the football game, the date remains the same for BYU in Houston, but they're going to switch venue. So instead of 6 home games and 2 road games, it's now 5 home games and 3 road games with this October matchup moving to Houston. Took me off guard, surprised, but as I think about it, Mitch, I think it's a great move for BYU because that home game, it's going to be delayed. There isn't a year or a specific date announced yet for that return appointment from Houston, but to have Houston's a quality opponent and to move that game down the road when you can max out Lavelle Edwards Stadium, I think it's a good move for both teams. And Houston didn't want to make that trip, but they still want to play the game, so they feel more comfortable playing that game in Houston. I think it works for both teams. Makes a lot of sense.
Not gonna lie, man. My first thought when I saw this news, flying out here to the East Coast, was, is this like a first domino of something else that's going to be added to the schedule? Maybe potentially. I mean, because I know it's COVID related with the Houston series, but maybe there's something else at work. Because BYU and the AAC, they got a good working relationship. BYU with the American Athletic Conference, these teams, they like scheduling BYU. BYU likes scheduling them. And BYU is all about relationships. And if someone is hurting and it's a program that's always pretty good by BYU, these two teams have scheduled games in the past, BYU is going to be willing to help them out and make it work. And honestly, I mean, with only 8 games on the schedule right now, you still got more than half of your games still being played in Provo. This is going to get the Friday night ESPN2 treatment. You can't complain too much. It's just kind of the reality of COVID-19 life with college football. I mean, I'll admit, Matt, I touched down here in the East Coast, and I'm thinking to myself, like, will we see a game on Monday? I mean, Kenny Amatalolo talked about it. He's like, let's not get too cocky and we got to get to kickoff first. So it's just strange times. We're seeing games postponed like SMU, TCU. We're seeing games moving locations. We might see games added on the schedule. It's just kind of what it is with COVID-19. But I'll tell you, a football game in Houston is better than no football game at all. And that's kind of how I keep telling myself when it comes to this season in regards to BYU.
And 2 more quick things on this point. One, it never hurts to put the message out there, Mitch, that you're willing to work with your coworkers. I think this is just an example of down the road, hey, BYU is a great partner to work with during difficult COVID-19 circumstances. Never hurts to have good press. And then number 2, this might be wishful thinking and I might be projecting ahead too much. And this leads us into our next article which, it's a bold prediction you made that BYU is going to go undefeated this season and should go undefeated. But if BYU does go undefeated, having a win against Houston on the road, I think holds just a little more value when it comes to bowl selection time. And who knows, with the craziness of COVID-19, maybe 8-0, even with this schedule, which is lackluster. But, hey, it's COVID-19, no judgment there. 8-0, road game against Houston, maybe it makes it just a little more attractive to a better bowl game at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the bowl season, if we do get to that point, and I'll admit, Matt, I don't even – the bowl season is hard to even wrap my mind around, just because those games are glorified exhibitions and they're made for tourism and vacationing during a time of the year when most people are off, and it's just kind of hard to wrap my mind around it right now. But I still think there's going to be some bowl games, and the nice thing for BYU is that ESPN basically runs and even owns some of these bowl games. So I think they'll do right by BYU. And if they go undefeated, like I think they can, and I think they should, Matt. I think they should go 8-0 with this schedule. Get them in a Vegas bowl against an SEC team. Put them in a Los Angeles bowl against a Big 12 team. A lot of
I'm dreaming bigger at 8-0. If two of the conferences aren't fulfilling their New Year's 6 bowl game dates, maybe an 8-0 BYU. Now it depends on. You have to have a quality product. Now, if BYU runs the table and they're blowing people out and they look fun, and Zach Wilson's a 3,500-yard passer, then, hey, maybe ESPN says, we got a vacancy here. What the heck? Orange Bowl. It's like, it's not inconceivable, and that's why I like that Houston game moving. Anything that makes your resume just look a little better than it does could benefit in the long run if you have that special season.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, anything is possible. Maybe, who would have thought that BYU would be playing Navy this year? So nothing can be ruled out in the crazy year that is 2020. And hey, if you really want to talk about crazy, I think an undefeated season for BYU would be crazy, because it's been a program that's been waiting for an undefeated campaign for a long time, 36 years since 1984. Only one undefeated season in BYU's storied history that dates back to 1922. And I think this year's team, I'm not saying I wouldn't have picked them to go undefeated with the original schedule. By no means would I have picked that. But this schedule, how it's currently constructed, even with Houston on the road, I look at every game and say BYU should be the favorite. Maybe Houston is a slight favorite now, being the home team. But I just like BYU's offensive line. I like BYU's quarterbacks. I like BYU's secondary this year. I think there's still some questions along the defensive line that need to be hammered out, and also the overall scheme of the defense. But I also like the wide receivers too. Even without Matt Bushman, I think the tight ends could be a pleasant surprise this year. There's just a lot of good pieces that on paper, this would be a classic BYU team that's in the mix for a 10-win season in the old Mountain West and WAC days. But because of independence and because of the lack of consistency, I think it's kind of jaded a lot of BYU fans and maybe national talking heads to say, they'll probably drop 2, maybe 1 at least, games that they shouldn't. They got to rewrite that script, Matt. At some point, they got to stop games they shouldn't. And what better year than this one? And giving fans some happiness during this year, that would be sweet. And I think it's a schedule that gives them a lot of opportunities to pile up the wins and maybe start to take shape of what they can become in the second contract for Kalani Sitake.
Yeah, exactly. And the Navy game is going to be so interesting. It was already interesting, Mitch, before the Matt Bushman injury. And if you've been living under a rock, Matt Bushman is not playing in this game and he's out for the season. Devastating news for BYU, because Navy's defense is really good. They were top 10 in rush defense last year. You take out your best passing option, that's going to put more strain on the run game. And then you have so much inexperience isn't the right word, because Neil Pau and Gunnar Romney and Dax Milne, they have experience, but all of BYU's top pass catchers from a year ago are gone. Micah Simon graduated. Talon Shumway graduated. Matt Bushman out. And so you're relying on new people. And so getting that Navy win on the road with no Matt Bushman, with everything I just mentioned, would be a really solid win, Mitch. And it's a game that's highly anticipated for so many reasons. as we navigate here to KSLSports.com, BYU Navy to ready to send a message. That's just one of the many storylines here that is so fascinating. If this game is played, and I think it will be, I hope it is for your sake, you make the trip, but I think the game will be played, and I love the message that it's going to send, and that's what Navy coach Ken Niumatalolo and Kalani Sitake and others have mentioned is this is a way to show America that we're going to move forward. We're going to do it safely. We're not going to be crazy, no fans, but we're going to move forward and play football, and it's a huge opportunity for BYU.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I love this game, this matchup, because, BYU last year, they had some struggles in stopping the run. And you want to talk about great programs running the football, that's the Navy midshipmen. Since 2002 in this triple option era that they've been really running this thing at a high level, Navy's been one of the best. And the thing that's also interesting, too, is that when you think about BYU football, you think of passing offense, and Navy is just not good stopping the pass. And that's to be expected because they don't get much practice. Their secondary in stopping the passing attack last year, they were 120th in the country in stopping the pass. I just get this feeling, Matt, that this is going to be a tightly contested game, but there's some areas where it feels like strengths of these offenses are attacking what were maybe weaknesses a year ago on the defensive side. And those defenses are looking to prove that they are better than the stats indicated last year. So a lot of great storylines, a lot of great connections in this game. I mean, Kalani Sitake and Ken Niumatalolo both being from Laie, Hawaii. And then you also have former BYU defensive lineman Lenny Gomes. His son is playing on Navy. And then you got Ken Niumatalolo's son, who was once a BYU linebacker, Joe DePay. I just love this matchup. And then you have the whole country watching it. Kirk Herbstreit, the voices of college football, can be broadcasting, and then, of course, on KSL News Radio as well. It's a sweet game, and I hope that BYU delivers a product that, one, gets Cougar fans excited, but also gets the world of college football pumped about what BYU is in 2020, because it's been a while, Matt, since BYU won the national conversation and talked about as a program that, could do some special things. And I want that for this BYU football program. I think they got the makings to make it happen.
Yeah, and this is such a unique opportunity. And we're going to talk about this more tomorrow on Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch will be in Annapolis. He'll be live with myself on KSL News Radio 12 to 3. But because of the stage and because of the platform, Mitch, if BYU's offense is hitting on all cylinders and Zach Wilson looks good, let's say a 300-yard passing day, a couple touchdowns, they're going to be in the conversation for several weeks because there's just not that many big games in the month of September. The big SEC games don't take place until the end of the month, the start of October. And so if you have a great win against Navy and then you follow that up with a good win against Army, which is on CBS with, I presume, Brad Nessler. That hasn't been announced, but I imagine that will be a tune-up for Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson on CBS. 2-0, exciting football. They're going to be not necessarily the talk of college football, but they will be in the national conversation, which is awesome. And someone that's been in the national conversation, tough news today for a former BYU defensive back, Diane Lake. I'm a little confused here. BYU is Diane Kanwolaku with the Rams. He's Diane Lake, but he got cut today by the Rams. However, there are reports that the Rams are looking to snatch him up for the practice squad. So that is a silver lining in a difficult situation. You feel for guys like Diane Lake right now. And I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks. I've been watching Hard Knocks. It's been fun. He's made a few appearances here and there. No preseason games. I just don't know how any of these guys make a roster. But if he is picked up on the practice squad, I think that's a win right now for Diane Lake, considering the unique time of trying to make a football team during a pandemic.
Yeah, that's been the theme of Hard Knocks, is that all these coaches, all these veterans, they're going around saying, man, I feel for these rookies, especially the undrafted guys, that they don't get an opportunity to play in preseason. I mean, the Chargers, who are being featured in Hard Knocks along with the Rams, they've got a running back in Eckler who was an undrafted guy, and now he's RB1. So I feel for Diane Lake because he's one of those guys that, to me, Matt, he's not going to wow you in a practice setting. He's just a guy that makes plays in games. He's in the right spots at the right times. He'll make an impact on special teams. He'll be a physical guy that can play at safety and cornerback in the secondary. But he's not going to wow you in a practice with, his size, his measurables. It's nothing eye-popping. It's nothing out of the ordinary. He's just a football player. And when you take away those actual games, it hurts Dayan's chances of making a 53-man roster. So, yeah, I think if he can get a practice squad deal, maybe a futures deal, that's all you can really hope for. And, that's been a theme in the NFL this year, that the pandemic is just kind of altering careers, and we might be losing out on maybe some future Hall of Fame career, not necessarily from Dayan, but just some stud out there that's an undrafted guy that's got the ability, that's got the talent, but he just maybe fell through the cracks, didn't get drafted. We see it all the time in the NFL. All pros emerge from the undrafted ranks, Pro Bowlers, things like that, Hall of Famers. And that might be taken away this year because of this pandemic. I mean, Taysom Hill with the Saints, he's talked about it and said he might not be working in the NFL today. He might be on Wall Street, doing the business thing like he's been known to do a time or two back in the day. So, yeah, it's a bummer for Dayan. I hope that he can stick with the Rams or someone else in the NFL, because that's the other thing too, Matt, is that he didn't get an audition for 32 teams. He just had the practice reps with the Rams, and the Rams aren't going to divulge all of those reps to the other 31 teams. They got to get ready for a season. So it's just a bummer. And I feel for him. I feel for all these undrafted guys, Aleva Hefo. Tyson Williams is trying to make it work with Baltimore. He's been doing some nice things there, but it's just a difficult climate. But that's welcome to 2020. That's COVID-19 for you.
If there is a silver lining as we wrap things up here on the front page presented by University Federal Credit Union, I think the silver lining, Mitch, is I think the practice squad is going to be more valuable than it's ever been with the COVID-19 pandemic. Sure. Who knows when people are just going to be unavailable because they contract the virus or they get hurt. I mean, we've seen it a little bit in college football, especially down at BYU, where there's injuries still. And so if he does get signed to that practice, and there's the report right there, it's in the article, where Rams coaching staff really likes his potential, views him as a developmental guy. If he gets in to the practice squad, I think there's a great chance he could see some time this year. And then you get that valuable game footage for the other 31 teams. Because Taysom Hill is a great point you bring up, Mitch. If he doesn't have those games with Green Bay where he's engineering some game-winning drives and running into the end zone, Sean Payton never sees him, and it could be over for him. So crossing my fingers for Dayan, because I believe he's an NFL player. He was a great playmaker, but what you said is right. He makes an impact on the field in games. And, yeah, wishing the best to Dayan. I think it'll work out for him on the practice squad, but we'll see. We'll see. So,
yeah,
all right, Mitch.
I think it'll work out for him. I think that honestly, I think that also he's one of the best corners and secondary guys BYU's had since they've been an independent. So wishing nothing but the best for Dayan and all these guys trying to find a way in the NFL and make it work during this pandemic.
All right. Well, it's late. I'll let you get out of here and find some
seafood. The East Coast is no joke. It's kind of humid out here. It's like 58% humidity. I was already sweating. I get out of the airport and I was like, "Ooh, this is a different heat. This is a different heat, man. What I'm used to in the dry heat in Utah." But the weather should be pretty good the rest of the weekend. Low humidity, and I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of showcase this weekend to Cougar Nation and try to deliver as much interesting content to make everyone feel like they're here in Annapolis with me. So a lot of expectations, but I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to talk with you tomorrow on Cougar Sports Saturday. We're going to have a lot of fun on the program.
Yeah, can't wait. 12 to 3 tomorrow. And then we'll also be doing, I think this is an appropriate time for Cougar fans, doing our regular show every Saturday, but on Monday as well, special edition Cougar Sports Saturday, 2 to 4 on KSL News Radio. We are starting things off. You and I, BYU Navy pregame coverage on KSL News Radio, 2 p.m. on Labor Day. So have us dialed in on KSL News Radio 2 to 4, and then we'll take over network coverage with Greg Bell. And then, of course, the game can be heard on KSL News Radio as well. Can't wait. Stoked. The fact that you're in Maryland means we are one step closer to college football. Can't wait, Mitch. Can't wait.
I can't wait either, man. Excited. We're gonna have a lot of fun this 2020 football season, and let's see what this BYU team can do in a game and a matchup that I think has the makings to be a potential classic in Cougar football history.
All right. Well, take care. Have a great night. Stay safe. And thanks again to the University Federal Credit Union for sponsoring the KSL Sports Front Page.